Hello everyone, I hope you're going to enjoy this unit. Welcome to the first week lecture, which is an overall introduction to the workings of the subject. We get into the real details and the learning next week. I attempt to get the week's lecture loaded every Monday morning, just a little bit late this week. At the moment I'm sitting at home with my two dogs, Kingston and Dexter. Recording, returning to Mackay next week. So let's have a look at this subject that you're now involved in. You normally find I use my own photographs in these. So exactly what is BLR11045? Well, let's have a look at the overview and the basics of the subject and some assignments guidance as well. These are all the areas where people tend to have a few difficulties during their first year units. So the unit itself, we're looking at basically the foundations of the built environment in connection with sustainability, including what I would call planetary issues. I do not push any agenda for or against arguments for climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it, whether it's caused by humans or not. We just accept that it's probably, in fact, it probably is happening now, and we deal with it. So we don't get into the discussions and arguments about whether people are the main cause or just a little bit of an addition to something. So we try to avoid that one. The unit itself, we're trying to give you some basic ideas and understandings, an introduction of sustainability in planning, design and construction. And that will become clearer as we go through the unit. It's only an introduction to the impacts of building design and in construction sectors and the environment generally. If you're doing building design, you'll touch a little bit more on the construction of low carbon footprint, sustainable housing. And this is where I have to remember how to go backwards and forwards. About me, just so you know a bit about me, it's in the Moodle site, but I just tell you now because I know a lot of people don't look at the Moodle site. I'm going to talk about that in a while. Name's Kevin Stone. I'm a chartered building surveyor who specialises in heritage buildings, facilities and asset management, mainly through whole of life profiling, the costs of running a building from construction to disposal. I've worked in London for major blue chip clients. I've been a client side project manager, a client agent, lots of due diligence and expert witness work in the past. I developed a university degree, established and got it accredited back in the UK for building surveying. I established and ran my own specialist practice before I emigrated to Australia, nearly 14, 15 years ago, where I worked for GHD and then Queensland State Government. And then I lectured at University of Queensland. I did part-time consultancy lecturing there, whilst re-establishing my own consultancy in Australia, which I sold to a partner when I came back to full-time lecturing. I'm a Prince 2 accredited project management practitioner, and just because I don't have enough to do, I'm also a professional architectural photographer, but I do like taking photos of dogs as well, and so I'm often doing some photographs in my spare time. When you get to the end of the course, you'll be able to do all this. It's quite a light list, really. So the first one, you'll be able to propose methods for improving the environmental and social sustainability of the built environment. So you'll be able to look at something and work, well, if we did this and this, it'd have less impact, or be cheaper to run, or use less materials. Then you'll be able to explain the basic theories and the practical concepts used in urban planning, only at an introductory level, but the way we plan our communities has an effect on how sustainable they can be. You'll be able to choose appropriate design methods and responses for the different Australian climate zones. You could be up in the Northern Territory where it's humid and hot, or you might be down south in the Alpine region where it can be several metres under snow and rather cold at certain times of the year. You'll also be able to select building materials on an environmentally preferred basis with reference to how much energy is embodied in their manufacture and usage, how they're used, and the waste that can occur by using them. You'll have an introduction to that. You'll be able to solve everyday and a few unfamiliar problems using the information that you're being able to research, technology, just general practical logic, and you'll develop an ethical decision-making process. And that ethical process can be slightly different between each individual, depending on their background, etc. You'll be able to practice personal and interpersonal skills. Now, this is a first-year unit, and we want you to be able to communicate both verbally and in the written word. All the work's required in professional report format. We do not do high school essays in this unit. And you should be able to use all the different modes of communication. Presentation, email, phone call, reports, it goes on. So we're going to make sure you can touch on those early on in your career here. Readings for the course. Well, there are no recommended texts for this because it's such a wide subject, and we expect you to read widely, see things in the news, maybe find stuff on the internet, anything like that you can read because it's such a wide subject. I recommend that you check the Moodle site at least once a week because there are prescribed readings that you can download. They're normally released to you every week on a Monday. Oh, bit of a yawn, sorry. Remember that they're only the most basic information. If you really want to do well in this unit, you have to do your own research. The advantage, there is an advantage to doing your own research, is you can find things that are more interesting to you that I may not cover. And they're perfectly legitimate for you to work into your answers. So if you're really interested in things like the plastic pollution of the seas and that, then you should read a bit more on that than you would on pollution from old satellites and that circulating the Earth in orbit. Or you might be looking at the pollution levels of volcanoes or air travel or cars or whatever. But it's all there for whatever your particular interest is. You weave it into your assignment answers as best you can. So that's the overview of the unit. Student contact. This is really, really important. Don't just sit there in your own room worrying. Just because we're all distance learning and we're physically normally sitting on our own somewhere, you're not alone because you've got all your fellow students going through exactly the same thing, trying to answer the same assignments and understand the same lecture. You'll all have different experiences, so you can support yourselves. You should ask questions. You should use the tutorials. I even recommend you set up a private unit Facebook group maybe, so you can have private discussions that I do not want to know about. I mean, you can whinge about me, or you can think, oh, we did that really well, and you can swap ideas about answers, but I want you to have somewhere where you can all together talk about the subject without me being involved. Okay? And make use of me, the lecturer. I'm here to help you. I want to get you to understand the subject, and I want you to all get the highest mark you possibly can. I am not here to trick you and give you low marks. If you put the work in, I'll support you all the way. But if you sit there and don't ask a question, I don't know you need help. How do you contact and do all this? Well, email's the obvious one, isn't it? So you can email me if it's a personal matter. Okay, if it's a general question about a lecture, an article, an assignment, if it's a question like that, it's not personal, please put it on the question and answer board in Moodle or ask it in the tutorials. The reason I ask that is that other students might be able to give you the answer. I will guarantee there's other students who've got the same question. This is not a competition. You're in it to help each other as well as me helping you. So please raise it in the Q&A. That's the best way to do it. If you ask a general question which should be in the Q&A through email, you'll just get a reply from me saying put it in the Q&A. So avoid that little delay and go straight to the Q&A. And you get to know each other as well a bit then. Question and answer board, the Q&A board. Again, all your questions, if they're not personal, go in there. As I said, everyone's got the same questions probably. In previous years, the Q&A and the other forum boards have worked really, really well. We've had a hardcore of probably 20% of the students really getting involved in that. And guess which percentage of students got the highest marks at the end of the unit? You're right, the ones who really got involved in the Q&A and the general business board. So please get engaged. There is a direct link between how much you get engaged with each other and me and what your mark ends out to be. The lecture contact or lecture contact, me, I'll email and telephone you to provide you support, especially if I see you're not coming to tutorials or you're not accessing the Moodle site very often. So, don't make me have to drag you out and find out what's going on. I may just ring people up just to have a chat with you, just say you're doing really well and making sure you're okay. A number of you will be working as well, so you're taking on quite a workload doing this generally in the evenings and weekends. So even if you're doing well, I may still call for a chat. Student services, I'd like to just make sure you're aware of this. We are in the first year here, so you've probably told this elsewhere, but I'll do it again. Don't forget that they're there. If you need help for anything at all, or you just need to talk to someone, student services, it's all private and confidential. I don't even know you've done it. Do it for any course, any subject. So also, you'll find the library have got lots of ways to support you and make your life a lot easier. You can either just email them, you can telephone them, or you can drop into the library. For those students who are spread all over the place, find out whether you're near one of